What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Game Informer Show, a weekly podcast covering the video game industry. Join us every Thursday for discussion about the latest gaming news, reviews, and exclusive reveals alongside Game Informer staff and special guests from around the industry. I'm one of your hosts, Alex Van Aken. Today, I'm joined by Marcus Stewart. How you doing, Marcus?
I'm feeling great. How are you?
I'm doing really good. Thank you. I stayed up too late playing Baldur's Gate last night. I'm at a pretty big crossroads, and so you might be able to hear it in my voice. We are also joined by
indecision in your voice.
Oh yeah. We're joined by Kyle Hilliard. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I think I got enough sleep. I think.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Inside Baseball, we're recording way earlier than usual. So pardon if there's frogs in the throat. How about brain frogs in the throat? That's
should be all clear our throats in unison. Is that good? Is that good podcasting?
Well, I just did mine, so I'll leave it up to y'all to find a time. Yeah. The news hound himself is here. Wesley LeBlanc. How you doing, Wes? Yes, perfect. Thank you.
How's it going? Doing much better now that I've got a clear throat. I got good sleep. I woke up a little early, did some cleaning, which is kind of wild for me, and been a good day so far.
Nice. Are you doing Pokemon sleep? You messed with that yet?
I have not messed with that. I don't think I'm going to. I don't want to gamify sleep. Too much of my life is gamified.
That's absolutely fair. Well, we've got a big show today. We're going to be talking about Gamescom Opening Night Live, which happened yesterday for us, and going to be getting into some Immortals of Aveum review discussion with Wes, and then we're going to be talking with Brian about he went to New York, he went to Chicago, and all in all he played 5 or 6 games, including Mortal Kombat, Persona 5 Tactica, and much more. So busy show today. We're going to kind of be shuffling around, just FYI. It's been with all this travel and these big events, it's just fitting people into the show as we can. So you might see us in a couple different outfits as we've recorded this episode.
No, all the same day.
All the same, yes. Outfit change.
It's like you ever hear the secret of reality TV, where apparently they'll film multiple scenes in one day, and they'll tell the cast to change clothes, so it seems like time has passed.
Yeah,
and I've heard that's like
ruining's too hot to handle for me. Don't do this.
I've heard it's a real pain in the ass.
That's why you got to watch Big Brother, because they have 24-hour camera feeds that you can watch.
Can you imagine editing that show, Alex?
Oh, it'd be awful.
Terrible.
Yeah, I really want to compete.
We should have a 24-hour GI show.
Nah, we're good.
Yeah,
I checked. I looked into it. We're good.
Yeah. Well, let's get into Gamescom. Man, started off real strong with that guy rushing the stage.
Oh, I think you're talking about Starfield. I was like, did it?
Oh no.
Like
I just can't believe that they had another guy literally opening the show with another one of these.
Yeah, I can, and I also don't want to give them any airtime.
Oh,
it's
fair.
Like those whatever they were trying to do, I'm glad was a failure. I'm glad they moved on so quickly. I hope people are done with that. It's like I don't want it to become a fad.
I saw Janet Garcia suggesting, like they do in baseball, cut the camera feeds when that happens from now on.
That's what well, when WWE, when the rare instant when someone a fan jumps the barricade and tries to do something, they'll cut away to anything else, so you see it for maybe a split second.
No incentivizing it. Yeah.
I did think
they don't acknowledge it at all. They don't even talk about it. Yeah,
I did think it was a bit when it first started, and I was like, are they making a joke about the Game Awards? That's a weird. I didn't think they'd want to joke about that, but it was pretty quickly clear that it's oh no, these are just some
yeah. I feel like they should just
rush the stage.
They should have some security between the seats and the stage, because it seemed like the security was on the back, the far corners of the room. But
I mean, they did get them all out of there pretty quickly. to their
Yeah.
credit.
Maybe at the beginning of every show going forward, right before Jeff starts his opening monologue, or maybe as he's doing it, he pulls his jacket back and you see just like a gun in his holster.
Oh,
and,
God.
And he doesn't acknowledge it. He just very casually just flashes it and then keeps talking.
See, I was thinking, what if
boy.
you had a fake start? You know, I was like,
Yeah, they
Oh,
recorded.
they're like, and starting the show here is like, and list all the big names, and you know, that's your chance to bait them out.
The trap.
Yeah. Let's talk about the actual games though. I was kind of working through the show. I know, well, all of us were in some way, but I was less directly tied to covering the show, but I was still watching. This it didn't do much for me yesterday.
Yeah. And to be fair, Jeff did get out ahead of time and basically tempered expectations, saying like, "Hey, like it's not
no
gonna
big
be
reveals. We're just updates.
Yeah.
Like
This
It's
this
gonna
is
be
one of
chill.
the bad ones.
his exact wording." And I think even he put out, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he even like put out a list of what was going to be there, or like most stuff, so that
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
he
wouldn't be
yeah,
much of a surprise, right? So he's just like pretty much trying to cover his butt as much as possible. Like,
Yeah.
don't complain, is what he's basically said.
I warned you. Yeah. But yeah, what were some of your highlights from the show, Marcus? I'll go to you first.
I mean, honestly, the only two that really leaped out, because there's stuff there that I'm excited about, but it's stuff that we've seen and know about, of like, oh, like I'm excited for Alan Wake, and then I walked away like I'm still excited. This
Yeah.
what you showed me, it didn't change that, but yeah, or like Mortal Kombat, it's like, oh, cool, I'm gonna play that anyway. But in terms of new stuff, there was I mean, Little Nightmares 3 is probably the biggest new thing for me, because I really like those first two games, especially the second one. So that was a fun trailer. And then honestly, I like towards the end, there was that game, God, what was it called? I'm looking it up now. Thank goodness you're here. Yes.
Yeah.
See, I'm surprised you knew what I was talking about immediately. That was like, in terms of like brand new stuff, I was like, okay, I want to play that. I want to know more about that one. That was the
Panic, right?
Yeah, Panic
Publishing, yeah.
Which is
Untitled Goose Game.
Playdate, all that.
Playdate, yeah.
Right, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's like a very like silly. I think the term they use is slap former.
Yeah,
where
they did.
It's got this very kind of like cartoony vibe. It's very British, extremely British humor, where you play as like a salesman apparently, and you're just in this English town going around trying to like sell your wares, and you're just meeting all these weird like locals, and like just getting all these weird odd jobs, and just sort of like exploring more and more to cities, selling your dumb whatever you're selling. But I don't know, just like the presentation and the humor and just how silly it looks. I was like, oh, okay, that looks kind of delightful. I want to play that. So yeah, that honestly, it's kind of, those two were my like big like takeaways, I guess. Like again, there was some stuff that looked cool, but it was like, I know I want to play that already.
Yeah, I feel like the big out of those two, thank goodness you're here, is like the big one that I was really stoked for. The art style looks really fun. It's kind of got that it kind of looks like that Swords of Ditto art a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Or did you ever play, was it Pool Party? It was like a comedy game about like billiards. No, it was an Adult Swim game.
Oh, that's why it was a pool party.
Yeah. Oh, it's gonna drive me nuts not knowing what it is. Yeah, it was like a Pool Panic is what it was. And the art style reminds me quite a lot of that. But I'm always down for more comedic focused games. Yeah. I'm. It looks light. It looks fun. I'm excited for that one. But I think probably for me, Crimson Desert was a big standout. They've shown that off previously. I think several years ago.
2020.
Three years ago. Like, this is the first time that game has made a peep since then, honestly. So I was like checking our YouTube channel to see like was anything uploaded that I didn't. It's like, no, it's just these original trailers from 2020.
That's the one where you're like a medieval guy, but you're also like doing full Breath of the Wild, like jumping and flying and stuff like that, right? Okay.
Yeah, so it's from the same.
Really cool.
They do Black Desert Online.
Yeah, Pearl Abyss.
Yeah.
It's set in that world too, right? It's like the same universe or continent or something like that.
I think so.
I forget. Yeah. I remember at the time when I was like, because I think I wrote a magazine preview for it when it was first announced. I think you're right, but I couldn't. I was like, it's like loosely connected, or if it's like all the way connected. I forget the extent. Yeah,
their games are so gorgeous, though. Black Desert is ridiculously good looking, especially for an MMO. You know, all the things you have to tackle with that in terms of performance, and it's still probably the best. Like, they definitely go for like that glossy, you know, high fidelity look compared to something more stylized. But they do it really well. And I don't know if you all saw the shot where they're kind of fighting amidst a flooded area a little bit. And the animations interacting with the puddles on the ground was ridiculous. It was like, typically graphics, I'm like, as long as you have a cool art style, I don't really care like what it looks like. But seeing that like brought me back to like Lizard Brain Alex, where I was like, oh my gosh, that looks like real life.
The way he jumped off that dragon and then transformed into like a psycho crushing feather thing.
Yeah, but specifically like the puddle, like the way he like moved his foot through the puddle as he was fighting. I was like, that's ridiculous. Like whoever that animator is, give them a large raise.
Yeah. Now, are you going to be mad when the game comes out and that puddle is less impressive? You need to bring that back?
Yeah. I'll definitely have to bring... Man. No, I'll be sad,
like
but I won't be mad.
Single-player game, right? Because when I hear about Black Desert Online, I think like MMO, but this... like, which is honestly like would just totally evaporate any interest I had. But if this is all like single-player, which it looks like it is, that does make me much more excited about it, yeah.
This game also looks like it has every feature ever put into a video game.
Which always goes well for games that do that.
Yeah.
It was so much. It just kept going. It was like, oh, here's a new thing. Here's a new thing. Mini game. Even riding a horse or taming a horse has a mini game.
Yeah, which I mean, it's like Zelda does too. But like, I mean, you can hug a cat. I was like, you know, we love petting pets, but I was like, I don't know if I've ever seen a game where you just outright pick it up and just snuggle it. But this game has done it. Technology has advanced to where we can more intimately show love to our fur babies. So
finally,
finally, that looked good. I feel like what was the other one that they showed off?
Well, one to call out, the one that got the most traffic on our website was the Cyberpunk stuff, which is kind of surprises me because like I thought Cyberpunk is a weird game where I feel like people like cooled on it a lot, right? Obviously it was going to be big and we all know the story. It came out and people were really disappointed in it. And I feel like people really are coming back around on it and getting excited again.
Yeah. I mean, that anime has definitely done a lot to rehabilitate its image and interest in it. And then they've also like those updates that they've done to kind of bring it up to snuff. I like that during that presentation, one of their big pitches was like, "We fixed the cops. The cops are back, baby. They're gonna do their job so well. You better watch out."
Yeah, it's hacking while driving and cops and all. They showed off all the stuff that's going to be added for everyone for free. You know, like whether you get Phantom Liberty or not, it'll be part of the game. Yeah,
right.
So this is part of the show that I had to step away for. But I saw on our website that they teased like this whole 2.0 update. Is that like what this is tied into? Okay.
Yeah, like 2.0 is coming, and it's going to overhaul a ton of systems. Okay. And then also Phantom Liberty will be available to purchase
as
if
a
you
separate
want to.
expansion.
Yeah. In which I'm sort of walking carefully because I don't know how much I can say, but like in the next issue of Game Informer, we will have a big feature on Cyberpunk related to all that stuff that I wrote. So I was still surprised to see that be the one that got the most traffic on the site. I was like, oh, sure. I guess people are excited about Cyberpunk. Cool.
Yeah,
I am too. Let's start a club.
Yeah. Wes, what were some standouts for you?
Cyberpunk was one of them for sure. I had played Phantom Liberty at Summer Game Fest, and I really liked 2077 when it came out. I had a Xbox Series X at the time, so I didn't really have too many issues that I know a lot of people did with it. And I really, really, really loved the Edgerunners anime, and like even the perk skill tree rework has David, the main character of Edgerunners, has his own skill tree in the rework, and like Rebecca, other characters from them are on the different perks. So it's cool to see them integrate the anime so much into the show, or into the game. So I'm excited about that. And then the other one was probably Little Nightmares 3. I love the first game. Haven't played the second. I'm more interested in it from a developer standpoint because it's Supermassive developing it, which has done The Quarry and
really?
Until Dawn.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that is
okay.
So it's like a weird anthology series at this point because it's been a different developer every game, and now but I don't know. I think it's so fascinating.
Yeah, I didn't know that
I think
either.
I think the second game was developed by a different team as well, if I remember correctly.
Okay. Yeah, I love Little Nightmares. Jenny, I've played both of them, played the mobile game and read all the comics. That's how
you're gonna listen to the
Nightmares
podcast.
We're just fake fans compared to you.
I will because it has become a sort of a father-daughter thing for us. We play it together and we read the comics together. And it's weird. My kid does not like creepy things usually, but something about Little Nightmares appeals to her, and we're all in. Her and I
It's funny because I wouldn't even.
I read her the press release. That's where I'm at with that game. Awesome. So yeah,
that's interesting because that game is not tame in terms of the horror. There's some genuinely those weird what do they call the nightmarish people with the long arms and stuff? They're legit scary to me, and I think the second game especially is has some genuinely terrifying moments.
Yeah, no, I'm concerned. I'm it's.
Well, she's cheering.
What have you done,
watches
child?
a scary teacher eat the kids.
Yeah.
And stuff. Yeah.
Man.
But by the way, Wes, just to double check, I did look. It looks like 1 and 2 were Tarsier Studios, and now the third one is Supermassive. Unless maybe
it was published by a different company. 1 and 2. There was a change between 1 and 2 in terms of somebody on the back end.
I know,
but nonetheless,
that sounds right. Yeah,
I wonder how that change happened, or why. Evolved Studios, Supermassive, which is never, to my knowledge, they've never done a platformer side scroller thing.
Unless they have a weird before Until Dawn history that we're just.
That's what I'm.
Maybe.
Or maybe just talent at the studio previously worked on, other games in those genres.
Yeah.
And kind of collectively they're going back to it.
I hope Little Nightmares 3 opens with the curator introducing us to the story.
Supermassive did the enhanced edition of Little Nightmares 2, so the new gen console version. So they've got they have some history on it, so I guess that makes sense. But still, it's nonetheless it's still strange to see Supermassive on this series, especially because they've been doing their own IPs.
Yeah, they still got 27 Dark Pictures games they got to make. We're finding time for this.
They're like, can we make this one of those? Does that count?
It'd be amazing if it's just the Dark Pictures anthology.
By the way, I'm sure
3.
Plus Little Nightmares DLC or whatever.
I'm sure Wes and I are looking at the same stuff here, but apparently Supermassive did a bunch of Little Big Planet DLC.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they worked on Little Big Planet before Until Dawn. So I guess
Weird. Okay.
That fits. That kind of looks like Little Nightmares, 2.5.
You could probably make Little Nightmares in that game.
Right. Yeah.
That's how it started. Someone made it and they were like, we should make this into its own thing.
Yeah. Wes, I do want to ask you, you weren't on last week when I believe the Lords of the Fallen preview embargo came up, and that was one of the games that was at the show.
Yeah.
You've played that game, right?
Yeah, I played about 2 hours in LA last month. Yeah, July.
Yeah.
It is the most promising Souls-like I've played, not developed by From Software. First game I did not like. It's very clunky and kind of locks you into a certain play style. This game is them acknowledging all the problems with the first game, although I don't know if that matters as much because it's a 10-year-old game at this point. and doing their own thing in the genre. So you can kind of play whatever style you want in a very Elden Ring-esque fashion. Like there's tons of classes. You can be a Bloodborne character if you want. That's what I played, was the one from the trailers that's clearly Bloodborne inspired. But like the cool thing for me was the 2-realm system. There's like the regular world you live in, and then there is, when you die, you go to the Umbral realm. And so when you die the first time, it's not really the end of your run. You have a chance to go through the Umbral realm and find like a special portal that takes you back to the, I think it's called Axiom, which is like the living realm. But you can also use a lamp to illuminate the Umbral realm while in the living realm. And you use that to like do platforming puzzles and find chests and reach areas you wouldn't be able to reach otherwise. It's doing like, it's kind of like the Medium, where you could like illuminate the other world at the same time. Except it's in a Souls-like game, and it's really cool. Yeah, it's I mean, it feels like a Souls game. It plays like one. They're not like shying away from the fact that they are heavily inspired by From Software games. They just want to do their own spin on it, and they've taken their time to, I think, really nail something in that 2-realm system. So coming out at a terrible time, I think, October 13th, which is like the 2 hell weeks of games this year. But I think it's one that people are going to be surprised with.
God, movies don't have this problem. Movies don't have Hell Week. You just go see all the movies.
Yeah, work for Barbenheimer.
You have Hell Day.
This benefits both of us to come out the same. We need that for our Barbenheimer is going to be Spider-Man and Mario.
Yeah.
So we're going to need like a name for that.
Yeah.
I've canceled my anniversary trip that week, and we're just gonna play games.
Can I real quick? I forgot about this game. We'll call out Black Myth Wukong. That like Chinese looking. It looked Chinese just because of the monkey
Journey to
stuff.
the West.
Yeah, like Journey to the West.
And
stuff. Yeah. That action game. I'm a sucker for like stylish action or any like stuff like that. And it gave me some like strong kind of like Neo vibes, or maybe Wulong, like Team Ninja vibes. I don't know if that game had been announced before. It was my first time seeing it, at least that I could remember.
It had been announced, yeah.
Okay, then maybe I'd seen it and just forgotten about it. But
it's a good trailer.
Yeah, it's a good trailer. Look cool. That's probably maybe that's like number 3 on my like things of like, I want to play that.
Fair, yeah.
Yeah, I think it looks cool too.
I think Call of Duty was not a standout. But I want to play Call of Duty like that.
Yeah.
And I'm a sucker for the night vision infiltration missions. I'm like, we've had this in like almost every Call of Duty game.
Yeah,
but it's kind of Modern Warfare's thing.
Yeah, I've always thought that
Modern Warfare, you have the lasers that you can see with the
I always thought that was a weird choice for demos like Call of Duty. It's like, why is so much of this in night vision? You can't really show off the fidelity when it's so limited because of just how night vision looks. I don't know. I've always kind of questioned that choice.
Yeah,
but
we got to see the
just
wet.
Save that for the game.
The wet stone.
They were very super wet. Everyone was, and I asked this in chat when it was like the first like few minutes. It's like, I'm having deja vu. Like, didn't they do this with Modern Warfare 2? The first similar, like, it starts on a boat in the middle of the ocean. It's pouring rain. It's like we're doing this again. Oh, okay. Is that?
And a lot of people love that mission, myself included, even though it's barely a mission.
Yeah.
And then you went to a
Have
castle.
You guys seen the trailer? Kyle, I think you covered it. It was like the big reveal trailer with Makarov, where they tease in like a almost Marvel-esque fashion another No Russian level, which seems so wild to me. Like he's on a plane and he pulls up a gun, and then his phone, he's texting someone, and then someone texts him and says No Russian, and then and I'm like, that seems
way.
They did. I forgot about that.
It's gonna be the conversation around that. Like I don't know how they're gonna handle No Russian in 2023.
If they do it, it's got to be
just
probably
not.
like a cutscene, right? Like it's like you don't actually play it this time. It's just going to be a cutscene because we still like we're kind of trying to have our cake and eat it too. We're like we still want that shock factor and like the emotional impact, but maybe we just won't have you pulling the trigger this time.
I wouldn't. That's giving them a lot of credit, Marcus.
I mean, I would say maybe we just don't, or if you do, maybe it's you don't even see it. Like
maybe
you just
implied
that it happened. Like, oh man, like Captain Price, like we just got briefed that this happened at the airport.
Yeah.
They'll have that
we're
little
looking at a
prompt at the
map,
start of the game that's like, do you want to kill a lot of civilians? No or yes, and then you can hit no
like
if you don't.
And then you have the option to toggle rabbits instead. It's just a funny
What's the like thing for like Grounded with the arachnophobia slider? It's like it turns all the civilians into blobs with eyeballs.
Yeah.
Also, I know Ubisoft does not make Call of Duty because I've already seen the comments in my brain for that joke.
What an idiot.
Yeah, guy doesn't even know Activision. Are there any other? I mean, I'm looking at the list that you all put in our doc here. Were there any other like standouts for you? I'm looking at it. Killing Floor 3 looked all right. I was not expecting that to be. I don't know if they'd shown Killing Floor 3 before.
I think that was a new announcement.
I don't really follow that series, but it didn't look like what I thought it was. I think I said it was like For Honor or something.
I mean, Tekken 8 release date's big. I love Tekken, and that's been unfortunately. I guess it makes sense that it's coming out next year, not this year. I was just excited about the idea of getting kind of like the big 3 fighting games all in one year and having that like showdown. But like I see why it's January. It's like, yeah, like, give it some space. Let it. It doesn't have to fight Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat if it doesn't have to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, excited for that finally. Not my prediction of it being November 10th, unfortunately, bit the dust.
Oh, right.
The GI show like weeks and weeks ago.
Just a lot of like updates and trailers for games that we're looking forward to already. It just, kind of how I felt ultimately.
Yeah.
It was like just cool trailers, and it makes my like gaming calendar a little easier to manage because there was some release dates, but like I don't think I popped for anything really. It wasn't one of those shows where I'm working and I have to like stop writing a story because I need to watch what's going on screen. It was just kind of like, okay, yeah, this is fun.
Yeah. Are you guys gonna watch Rebel Moon on Netflix?
Probably
What's
not.
that?
No.
Oh,
the Zack Snyder.
Yeah. No, my eyes instantly glazed over, and I
guess is getting a game.
I think I muted the stream at that point
lightsabers-
and went back to editing my video.
His take on lightsabers is cool, and it's cooler than what Star Wars has been doing lately. But I'm probably not gonna watch it. I don't know.
I think I saw like 3 different IPs mashed into that movie. I was like, okay, this is kind of Dune, maybe a little bit of like Harry Potter, because I saw like a hippogriff looking thing.
I mean, that's Snyder's whole thing, though. It's like even his original movies are very much just like ideas without relevance. Like I watched his zombie movie on Netflix, and like
Army of the Dead.
Yeah, and there's just so much stuff in it that's like would, if you're talking with your friends, be like, isn't that a cool idea? And you're like, oh, I guess so, but like, is that relevant to like the story or what's happening? And it's like, no, but it's cool, right? It's like, I guess, like that's my Snyder take. It's like, he makes very pretty looking things that just don't have any depth.
Right.
I can feel the Snyder army coming to the comics.
Come at me.
Getting more in like an Army of the Dead cinematic universe. I mean, you have time to work on this.
Yeah, I look. I think his Watchmen adaptation's all right.
I thought the Snyder cut of Justice League was better than the original, which is probably the coldest take you could offer. Because that movie is terrible, original Justice League, and this one, the black and white one was less terrible.
By the way, it's not a cut if you have to go back and reshoot like an extra 4 hours of the movie. Like that's a new movie. You remade your movie. It's not a
call
cut.
it then. It's not as snappy.
That's a mulligan.
The Snyder add-on.
The Snyder remake. He remade the movie he started and didn't finish.
Yeah,
anyway, that's a whole thing.
Well, speaking of
2.0.
film edits, we're going to transition. Brian Shea is going to join us for a few minutes talking about all those games he played on his trips, and then we're going to come back and finish out the show with Wes here talking about Immortals of Aveum. We'll be right back after this. And we are back, joined by Brian Shea, who's stopping in. Shea, you recently went to New York, right? And played several games at a preview event. What'd you see?
So that I can talk about right now, I saw Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name.
Okay.
Persona 3 Reload. Persona 5 Tactica.
Ooh.
Endless Dungeon. Samba de Amigo Party Central, which comes out next week. So I mean, hey, if you want to talk
I'm just
about
laughing
it,
at how many there are. You're just like, and this, and this,
Yeah.
and this, and I also played this, and then
How
this.
long were you at this event for?
Well, and then there was one I can't talk about.
Years,
just yet.
surely.
There's one I can't talk about just yet, and then there were 2 games I didn't get to. Both of them were Total War games because I had like 30 minutes left, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to accomplish anything in a Total War game in 30 minutes. So unfortunately,
that's enough time to select 2 commands.
Exactly. So that's when I went and played Samba de Amigo.
That's the right call.
I did that, and then actually 2 days later, or 1 day later, I was on a plane to Chicago because I saw Mortal Kombat 1. So it was a long week, but have lots to talk about.
All right, well, run us through. What do you want to talk about?
All right, I guess we'll start with the first game that I played, which is Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name. This is kind of a spin-off, I guess, because the mainline hero is now Ichiban Kasuga, who debuted in Yakuza 7 Like a Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Now the entire franchise is just renamed Like a Dragon out here in the West. And
which was always its Japanese name, right? Like
I believe so, yes.
Clear, right? Okay.
So this stars our old pal Kiru. And he is, as the name implies, he has erased his name, so he now goes by Joru. And he has 2 fighting styles. He has kind of like his Yakuza fighting style, which people will remember from the other games. And then he has an agent fighting style where he uses like gadgets. So there's one that like, and it's all mapped to, I believe, the face buttons. You hold down specific face buttons and they'll do different gadgets. One's like a combat drone that'll fly around and help you with like the enemies around you. The other one is like, he'll be able to like throw out like these like lines that will tie up the enemies and allow you to attack them, like they're kind of stunned. Another one activates rocket boots, so he goes like charging forward. It's very, very silly, but that's kind of how the combat plays out. It plays out very much like the original run of Yakuza games, where it's like the third person brawler as opposed to the turn-based combat of Yakuza 7 Like a Dragon. And basically this takes place, the demo that I played takes place on the castle, because the main gameplay, I believe, is in Osaka and Yokohama. So the majority of his adventure took place in different parts of Tokyo, most notably Kamurocho, which is modeled after like kind of like some of the nightlife areas of Shinjuku. And so Kamurocho seems like it's left completely in the past. Now it's Osaka and Yokohama, but my gameplay demo takes place on kind of like an enclosed area that's like a Yakuza playground called the Castle. And the reason it's called the Castle, and Alex, you'll appreciate this because we went here together,
Osaka Castle.
It is modeled after Osaka Castle.
That's cool.
And at the center is Osaka Castle, like a kind of like a one-to-one replica of it. But it's like basically like it's out in international waters, so law enforcement can't really get them, and they're just kind of like a floating like.
Wait, and you and Alex went to this place?
Well, Osaka Castle's in the middle of Osaka, so I think that's well within the bounds of the law in real life.
No monkey knife fights out in the castle. Or
No.
I actually went there too for the RE cover trip back in January.
Yeah, it's just a lot of families and old
easy to
folks walking
to.
around, enjoying the sights.
Funny.
Very different from the castle, which I visited in this game. So that's like kind of like on like a floating cargo ship out in the international waters, and straight ahead is like a combat arena. Off to the right is like a high-end boutique where you can customize your character, and then there's also a gambling house and a casino. So the gambling house is kind of like Japanese card games. The casino has like more traditional like Western style card games like poker and blackjack. And then on the left, we'll talk about this later, but there is a cabaret where you can go on dates with women, and it's very surreal. But we'll get to that in a second. The first one we'll do is the kind of like the combat arena, where you go for the Coliseum, they call it, and you have like these different combat challenges, and you can do solo or you can do team battles, and the team battles have AI companions with you. But even if you do the solo, you can actually choose your team from a group of different fighters. So like I don't know if they're going to be DLC or unlockable or what, but like they're all characters from like past Yakuza / Like a Dragon games. Like so Guru Majima is one of the characters you can select, or God, what's the big like muscle man from the past games? Jeez, now
I know you're talking about. I do not know his name.
I'm searching muscle man.
Gary Buster Holmes.
Gary Buster Holmes. That's the first search result that came up when I typed in Muscle Man Yakuza game.
But yeah, so there's different characters from like past Yakuza games, and then also like there's like the sheep man, the chicken man, and like they're just people with masks of those animals, and they have like I think the.
I'm very sorry to interrupt, Brian, but the chicken man. This is totally off topic. Is actually a tactic that my parents use to get their dog to behave. If their dog is being particularly bad when guests come over, and she always is when I'm there, she's usually in a bad mood, they go, "What's that?" And the dog like freezes, and they're like, "It's the chicken man." And then my stepdad goes, "Bark!" And then the dog like instantly like stops acting up and is like pretty much like scared to death and like behaves, and then like we'll look out the window. So if the dog's like really hyper, they say the chicken man's here.
Is it scared or just confused?
It's like I don't know if it's scared or if it's like just like it just like stops jumping around and like sits in one spot and like just watches out the window for the chicken man.
Now Brian, I don't know if you'll know the answer to this question, but does the game have an English dub?
No, not that I saw, but
okay, because then your parents they'll be fine to play it.
Okay, good.
Alex.
Yeah. Don't
as long
play
as
it
they're
around
not
your dog.
Yeah.
But yeah, the chicken man is in the game. So...
Chicken man doko desu ka?
So yeah, just be careful playing it around your dog, because the chicken man is absolutely in this game.
Okay.
As a playable character,
but real character, not like some threat that you levied against an invisible threat levied against a dog. It's really in the game. That's so
funny. But yeah, so you can do like one-on-one battles, but you can choose different characters. So I chose like Majima to be my character, and he has like a knife and everything, and so they have different combat styles, and then you can choose like big team battles, basically, where it's like, I think it was like 12 on 12, and you can have like just brawls against different characters in this arena, and you earn like money and everything. So that was fun. That was just kind of like a fun diversion. Gave me a good sense for like the different combat styles, the different characters that are selectable at this Coliseum for some reason. I don't know if there's going to be other areas that they're going to be playable, but they were fun to play as. It seems like that's a lot of work just for this one area to not have them playable in other parts of the game, but we'll see.
Do you know, is because this game takes place before Yakuza 8? So like no Yakuza 8 characters would theoretically be there, I guess,
not
right?
That I've seen.
Unless canon is just thrown in the wind and it's just all fan service anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I have a feeling that there's a robot I think you can choose to play as, so I think canon might just be
okay.
Yeah, it is. They did say it's supposed to bridge the gap, not only between 6 and 7, but lay the groundwork for what he's going to do in 8. So it is canon, technically.
Okay.
But maybe the Coliseum itself, I think, might not be canon, because it's like,
right. Yeah.
Why is Goro Majima there? Like, it's a weird thing. So I did that. Then I went and just played some card games. I made Joru. Sorry, I keep wanting to say Kiru, but his name is now Joru. Dress up all snazzy. I gave him like a nice suit and some really just kind of gaudy sunglasses and everything. And then I decided to take him and go on a date. And this is where things got kind of surreal, because they are FMV dates and they are in first person. So you sit down and you choose which girl you want to go on a date with. And I did not know this was going to be like live action FMV. So I'm sitting there at this preview event. There's people walking all around. And then suddenly there's like a full screen, like just a Japanese woman sitting very close to the camera in first person, looking back at me very lovingly and having a conversation with me. And I'm just like, this is kind of like, I put it in my preview that's on GameInformer.com. It's like, it's the kind of like scene that you might have to do some explaining if somebody walks in on you while you're playing it.
Like, I'm on a Zoom call.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just kind of like a weird, like I was just like chuckling at like the absurdity of it while I'm playing it. And I was talking to like one of the PR people or one of the representatives, and I was just like, yeah, that's kind of weird. He's like, yeah, I love watching like the reactions of people when it first comes on the screen. Because that was one of the things that like beforehand they were like, yeah, go check this part out. And it was just like, oh man, like it was jarring. Because at first I was like, wow, this is like really well animated. I was like, oh, it's a real person.
So is Kiryu like,
funny.
do you see him at all in first person? Like, does he have like real world hands on the table, or do you just not see any part of him?
You just see the woman looking back at you, and then like every once in a while she'll ask you a question or like ask you for like what you want to talk about or what you want to order, and you just choose like from like a list of a few different things, and then like her reactions will vary based on that. And apparently like you can get closer with them and go on better dates with them and like buy them presents. So I think you just hear his voice, if I recall, like kind of answering her questions, but like you don't see like his hands or anything like that.
Man, that's so weird. The dating stuff's not new for Yakuza, like that, you know. But like, man, I would love to know what inspired them to go that far with it.
You know what it was? They looked at Alan Wake 2, and they were like, you know what? I like getting this like live action footage in the game. We should do that. I'm assuming anyway. That's what I think happened.
So yeah, I had a good time, even amongst the absurdity of the first-person live-action dating simulation.
That's bizarre. I love that. That is so weird.
It was very bizarre. And I'm not hating on it. I'm just saying it was kind of strange.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What else? What's next?
So I played a little Endless Dungeon. Alex, you've played some of this. I had a good time with it.
I played it too. Yeah.
I don't have a ton of like details about like what I can share. I candidly haven't been really following this game a whole lot. But like, you know, it's just kind of like a top-down twin stick shooter roguelite experience where you're playing co-op with two other people, going around trying to open doors and make it through this kind of like procedurally generated labyrinth. And every once in a while, enemies will come in. You have to fend off waves of them. And while you're kind of managing your resources to like, all right, do we want to build like defense turrets, or do we want to like invest it in like a resource generator, or do we want to use it to like open doors? So like there is some like resource management at play. And you can also like buy health packs, new weapons and everything. And every hero character has like their own unique abilities. So yeah, I had a good time with it. I don't know how much I'll really have a chance to play it. I do like twin stick shooters, but this period of game releases from like now until like the end of October is just insanity.
Yeah.
I
think the coolest part of the Endless Dungeon, and I learned about it last Gamescom when I first played Endless Dungeon. I apologize if I've told the story on this show. But yeah, that series, and I'm pretty sure I've told all of you this offline, but that series, they told me, Endless, because they've got Endless Space and a bunch of others, was originally like it was going to be like their proof of concept for being able to, they wanted to make, the game they wanted to make for like 10 years was Humankind, which is the 4X game they made, that same studio. And came out in like 2020, 2021, something like that.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, well, Humankind is this big 4X game and has all these disparate pieces that we have to figure out how to design. Let's break up all those pillars and make smaller games out of each pillar. And then once we've done that, we'll be able to make our dream game. It turns out that now Endless is like their massive series with this huge cult following, and Humankind, not that it wasn't, I enjoyed the game, but not that it was like a forgettable game or anything, but like it just like, oh yep, that thing came out and now we're back to Endless. And like, yeah, it's just very interesting how kind of it was the exact opposite of what they ever originally envisioned.
It almost seems like how Sabotage pitched Sea of Stars to me back when before it was announced. You know, I was one of like the first people to learn about it. It was like the first week of COVID lockdown, and the PR person reached out. I was like, "Hey, we have like we want to pre-brief you on like the next game from the developers of The Messenger." And I asked them about it, and they were like, "Yeah, like you know, The Messenger was kind of like a hey, can we make a game? And like, can we actually get a game out the door? Let's make something less complicated." And then when they decided that they could, and like people seemed to like it pretty well, that's when they were like, let's let's do our dream game, which is Sea of Stars. We want to do something more complex, longer, and but within that same universe, but also a level of detachment since it takes place, I think, like thousands of years apart from the Messenger. But yeah, like the Messenger was like their proof of concept that they can actually ship a game, get it out the door, and have it be high quality. Sea of Stars was like the game they actually wanted to make.
That's awesome. I love stories like that.
Endless Dungeon was fun. I had a good time with it. But I'm a Persona guy. Ever since Persona 5 came out in 2017, I have just
make
been
that curry like once a month.
Mr. Persona. I still do make that curry from time to time. You can find that recipe on GameInformer.com, by the way. Just search LeBlanc curry. But I played Persona 5 in 2017. Absolutely loved it. Played Persona 5 Royal, reviewed it for us. Loved it. Went back and played Persona 4 Golden and loved that as well. Tried to play Persona 3 Portable. It's rough in 2023 to try to play Persona 3 Portable. And unfortunately, that's what they gave us on modern consoles earlier this year. Now we're getting Persona 3 Reload, which I got my hands on that. That is the full remake that we have been wanting. And after playing it, I definitely feel confident in saying that it is basically Persona 3, but up to the level of quality and modernization of Persona 5 Royal. So
that's exciting.
That is everything that I've been wanting. Talking to the representative, they basically were like, you know, like right now, if somebody asks me like, what, I've never played a Persona game, what should I play? We always just tell them Persona 5 Royal because that's the most modern game. It's the most streamlined. It's the most stylized. It just will immediately grab you. They said the goal for Persona 3 Reload is to make it so that becomes the default entry of like, hey, I need to play a Persona game. I've never played one before. What should I check out? And they say Persona 3 Reload. And it does feel like a good entry point. You know, Persona 3, the original Persona 3 was kind of like the first game that introduced so many of these mechanics that went on to define games like Persona 4 and Persona 5. So to have a modernized version of that, like, you know, it was the first one that really had social links in it, which, you know, are huge parts of P4 and P5. And you know, everything, it's rebuilt from the ground up in Unreal Engine. It gives you the high quality cutscenes, the high quality voice acting. They re-recorded the entire soundtrack. They added new songs, and the battle interface really does veer closely to Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal. And it just feels like, okay, if like Persona 3 came out in 2023, this is exactly what it would feel like. So unfortunately, it's not coming out in 2023. It's coming out in 2024, but it's February 2nd. They gave us the release date for that. So yeah, it's right around the corner. But like I played through some stages of Tartarus, and I played through the end of the first kind of dungeon against, and including the first boss battle. And yeah, it is modern Persona through and through. And I cannot wait to finally be able to say that I played Persona 3, because, you know, when I got into it, we had Kim Wallace and Joe Juba on staff still, and they kept saying like, oh, Persona 5 is great, Persona 4 Golden is awesome, but Persona 3 is forever going to be my favorite Persona game. And I have a theory that it's kind of like
before, yeah.
I have a theory that it's kind of like Pokemon and Final Fantasy, where like the first one that you really get into is always going to be your favorite. And I think that that's probably the case in Persona. Like, I don't know if anything's ever going to top Persona 5 Royal for me, but or Persona 5 proper, but I am forever going to be excited and curious about Persona 3, especially now that it's coming in a modern way that I can actually like approach pretty easily. Because like right now, when I try to play Persona 3 Portable, I'm just like, oh man, this is kind of rough. It feels antiquated. You know, it's a PSP port of a PlayStation 2 game, so it's like very antiquated in that way. And then they ported it to Switch and Xbox and PlayStation. But like having a modernized version that's like truly modernized feels like something that I just can't wait to play.
Well, okay, a couple questions that you might not be able to answer to based on your limited time. Are the dungeons randomized?
I believe Tartarus is, but I don't think that the dungeons themselves are. So Tartarus is kind of like the procedurally generated area, but
and outside the dungeons, you're fully controlling the character. It's like a third person, right?
I did not play anything outside of the dungeons, aside from like there was like a time where I was like, when I loaded into the save to go take on the boss, I guess like what they had done is exited the dungeon, but I was fully controlling the character and I was able to like run up the stairs and go into the dungeon. So that leads me to believe that you are.
Okay. And then the anime cutscenes, do you know if they've been like, have they done them over, or are they just bringing those over, like maybe like, you know, I don't know, putting them in HD or whatever?
I mean, I would imagine they're redoing all of them because, you know, they're rebuilding everything from the ground up. So like, unless they just did a really, really good remastering job and like maybe redubbed in like new voice acting, but like I can't imagine they wouldn't just go for it and redo the entire thing.
Yeah, I mean, those anime cutscenes look so good though, and they certainly would hold up. But yeah, I'm curious because I was like, I'm not really a Persona guy. Though I live in a Persona house. Everyone in my family loves Persona. So I know the soundtracks very well because I fall asleep to them every time a new Persona comes out. But like I was like, you know, maybe I'll jump in on portable on Xbox One and Switch and stuff. And I was just kind of bummed out by like they took out the cutscenes because they were trying to fit it on a PSP disc, a UMD back in the day, and like the sort of in between dungeons sections are almost feel more like point and click than
it was like visual novel,
which is like that's not really what I want. And then the randomized dungeons I think will always kind of bum me out. So I've been curious if they're, because that's the thing that they took out for 5, that they're like, well, we're gonna hand design all these dungeons, and I was like, yeah, that's because it's better. Thank you for doing that. But I'm curious if Reload is gonna do that as well. But in any case, I'm excited for it. It might be I will finally like jump in and play a Persona beginning to end.
I mean, why not 5? If you're like, you know, you have, I mean, it's very busy right now, but you have several months before this comes out, and 5 probably on sale between now and then.
I'm good. I just would rather play the new thing that's coming up. I don't have time to play Persona 5. I don't have literally 1 million hours to throw at an RPG.
Well, Brian, speaking of 5, tell us about Tactica.
Yeah, so that is the fourth spin-off or third spin-off game off of Persona 5. Well, I guess if you count Royal as a spin-off, that's more of an update. So yeah, it came out Persona 5, Persona 5 Dancing, Persona 5 Royal, and now Persona 5 Tactica. So yeah, this is the
Wait, did you skip Strikers?
Oh yeah, Strikers. Yeah, that's what I was forgetting. Yeah.
It's truly the Final Fantasy VII of Persona.
Right.
If you're not a gamer, that sentence made absolutely zero sense.
Well, no, which, by the way, normally I would say, yeah, we could just blow past Strikers, but that's like that's honestly the closest thing to a sequel Persona 5 has gotten is Strikers. So anyway.
And I love Strikers. I reviewed that for us back in 2021.
Yeah,
2021. And I loved that. And it was the main appeal for me. I'm not a big Musou guy, but like the turn-based elements they introduced into it made those battles a lot more enjoyable for me. And then on top of that, the main meat that I was excited for was just going on another adventure with that cast of characters, because I basically just fell in love with every single one of those characters during the course of Persona 5 proper. So having that be kind of like the carrot on the stick for me to continue playing was more than enough. And that's kind of where I'm approaching Persona 5 Tactica from, where it's like, yeah, I'd rather be a turn-based RPG, but like I'll take a turn-based tactics game. I like the occasional tactics strategy game. So like, you know, I like a Mario plus Rabbids or an XCOM 2 or something every once in a while, although I don't get like bogged down in too many of them, especially the really deep ones. But this one feels maybe like it's closer to the Mario plus Rabbids side of it, where there's going to be some difficulty, but it's overall a pretty approachable entry in the genre. So basically it starts off where like, you know, the lead candidate for the prime minister position in Japan goes missing. And like while they're kind of like talking about like how they're worried they're going to lose touch with each other once they're like in the cafe, and they're talking about how they're afraid they're going to lose touch once they start kind of graduating high school and going off to university, and they're talking about kind of their plans for that. And then like the lights go out and the entire cafe shakes, and then like they notice there's like a light emanating out of the door. So they go out there, and then when they open it, they realize they're not in like their civilian clothes anymore. They've kind of transformed into like their metaverse clothes. That they get into automatically when they go into like a palace in Persona 5. So they're like, oh, we are clearly not in Tokyo anymore. So they turns out like there's like a bunch of like revolution era soldiers that are like there, and like you just have to do like tactics battles against them. And it's like grid based, but it's also like you can move freely, but you just have to settle on like a specific location on a grid.
So it's not rabbits. We're talking squares, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it is free movement, but it's just like there are squares that you can reach to, right? It's not like you have to go like square by square. You can just move, and then it's like, here's how far you can reach in this turn. And like if you're in cover, the cover blocks any forward attack and then resists any attack from the side. So like it's really advantageous to be in cover. Every character has a ranged, melee, and persona attack. And the persona attacks have different abilities and everything like that. So like, you know, Joker's Arsene has a kind of like an area of effect attack, whereas Morgana's attack, like it's wind based, so it can like knock enemies out of cover, which is really handy. And if you hit an enemy when they're out of cover, you have a good chance of stunning them, and that gets you a 1 more attack, which, you know, when you're playing a turn-based game, getting a 1 more is like getting an extra turn in that turn is like huge. So that's really helpful. And then, you know, there's 3 members in your party at any given time, and one of the key mechanics is the triple threat attack. And what that basically is you surround each other in a triangle. You surround a knockdown enemy in a triangle, and when you do that, there's like a flaming triangle that gets drawn that like connects your 3 characters, and any character, any enemy that's in that triangle ends up getting hit by like basically this game's version of the all-out attack from the mainline series. And you know, that's a really powerful attack. So like positioning comes really into play when you're talking Persona 5 Tactica. So
does it do the same flashy like cinematic attack?
It does. I mean, it's different, but it is like a cinematic attack. And then you know, it's a chibi art style, so it's a little different looking throughout.
I forgot it's chibi.
It still maintains that kind of like Persona 5 like hyper stylized red and black color scheme. I really like the way it looked, even though I probably would have preferred like kind of like the more faithful character models than what we have in the chibi style of Tactica.
Cool.
Do you have to I don't know if you said anything about the story, but do you need to play the other ones to play this? Like, where does this, is this after Strikers, or where does this sit in the like timeline?
It's non-canonical. Jeez, I can't talk. Non-canonical, and but it does take place after Persona 5, at least. That's all we know. So none of the characters from Strikers are in it. None of the characters, at least from Royal, that I saw are in it. So like, if you played Royal, like any of the new characters that you get in your party are not in what I saw anyway. Maybe they joined later, but it seems like it's just Futaba, Haru, Ryuji, Morgana, Joker, Yusuke, An, and Makoto. So those were the ones that popped up during my playthrough, and yeah, it seems like it's a really great time. I'm getting more and more excited for it.
I like that it's non-canonical, because as somebody who hasn't played those games, I mean, I've played a little bit here and there. I've dabbled. Persona 4 Golden was the furthest I made it. I really like that game. I like that's non-canonical because I feel like it removes the pressure, and I can just like jump in and play a tactics game.
I mean, it probably would be good to play at least Persona 5, even if it's just the base game.
Okay, so just 120 hours.
Yeah, just that.
Okay. All right, cool.
But no, like I mean, that goes for any Persona 5 spin-off. Like, you know, if you're gonna play dancing, even though like there's no story really in dancing, like you're gonna have an affection for the music just because you've heard the battle theme like over 20 hours in your life. Whereas like, you know, but Strikers, it takes place after the events of Persona 5. Tactica takes place after the events of Persona 5, but they don't seem like they have any interactions between them.
Okay. Well, Brian, we've got about 5 minutes left. Kyle and I both have a hard out here in a few, but I know you played a lot of games. We also haven't even talked about Mortal Kombat. Any highlights from the rest of the Sega event before we move on to Mortal Kombat?
I had a good time with Samba de Amigo. It's not going to be like a top 10 game of the year for me or anything like that, but like that comes out next week. I played some Sonic games or Sonic songs plus the Macarena, so that was fun. And yeah, I mean the Joy-Cons kind of had a hard time registering at times, but other than that, like it seemed like the motion detection was pretty spot on. It had me doing windmills and everything with my arms, so yeah, I was sweating by the end of the third song that I played, and yeah, it seems like it's perfectly fine, and I'm happy that series is back.
Cool. Well, let's transition to Blood and Guts real quick. We just did. We had a pretty big preview stint with Mortal Kombat during the summer. It feels like. Is this what they show you? Is it the invasion stuff? Is that right?
Yeah. So I played Story, the first chapter of Story, and I played Invasions, which is the new giant single player mode that is going to operate on a 6-week schedule. So every 6 weeks it resets back to 0, and each season has about 9 hours of content. And it's a single player mode. Essentially, it's almost like it has hub worlds, right? Where like it has like the nodes, and you go on a linear path or sometimes branching paths, and each node has a different challenge. It's almost like Super Mario Brothers 3. All right, I beat this one. That opens up the path to these two or this one. And you just basically make your way through these worlds and complete these challenges. And some of them are like, here's a special challenge where like demons are coming through the match every so often and breathing fire, and whoever gets hit by it like catches on fire. And that actually comes into play because your characters, it's very RPG focused. So like you level up your characters as you play them. Like they get more attack power, more defense. You can also get talismans that you can equip to your characters, and that augments their abilities, because every character has an elemental type like an RPG. So like Sub-Zero is ice type, and Scorpion is fire type, and Raiden is electricity type or lightning.
Are you saying
type,
they're Pokemon now?
They're basically Pokemon, but like, as such, these talismans that you can unlock, you can go to the Forge and augment them and equip them to different characters. So like I was playing Sub-Zero, who's an ice type, and I got a talisman and I equipped it with this ability to throw a flaming skull. So all I had to do was flick the right stick, and Sub-Zero would throw out a flaming skull. So that gave him a fire-based attack, similar to like when you have like a water type that you teach like a grass attack to or something like that in Pokemon.
Weird.
So there's that, and like certain characters will have type advantages over other characters. Certain mini games, like there's certain challenges, like there's one where you're in a 2D plane, but it's just you in the stage, but there's energy balls coming through, and you have to jump over or dodge them or time it right. There's also like test your might mini games where you're just mashing a button and you have to pull the trigger or whatever button input you have to do to make it so they smash through the bricks. So yeah, it seems like it's a cool thing that's giving you, and it tries to reward you based on the player that you, or the character that you play. Yeah. So that way it's like, if you really like playing as Sub-Zero and you don't really like playing as Johnny Cage, you'll probably unlock more stuff for Sub-Zero than you would for Johnny Cage.
I like that a lot. That's
cool.
So
they're doing that, and it's every 6 weeks a new 9 hours of content, which is a lot. That's intense. And like it seems like they're doing a lot of like cosmetic rewards for playing through it, and that's really awesome. Real quick, because I know you guys have a heart out here, story mode, also played through the first chapter of that, which focuses on Kun Lao, and the production values are just incredible for Mortal Kombat 1, and
it looks phenomenal.
It's unbelievable. I got to look at NetherRealm's motion capture studio as well as their facial capture studio, which was very cool. Just state-of-the-art tech, and it shows in the final product. Like there's some fun moments. There's one where like Shang Tsung is like, and again, some spoilers for the opening chapter of the game, but like in the opening scene, like Shang Tsung is like dressed up in like his old man outfit from the original Mortal Kombat, and then like he goes back after like they call him a fraud because he's trying to sell like a miracle cure tonic that like, hey, it cures every disease.
He's a snake oil salesman.
Yeah, basically. And so like some guy shows up and he calls him a fraud and a liar, and then like once he exposes them, like the crowds people like, or the townspeople gather around him and like basically beat him up. And then like it flashes forward to like later in the night, and like he's just sitting outside of like a wagon, and he's like, dressing his wounds, and then he removes like the old man costume, and it turns out he's actually younger. And that's kind of like a nod to the fact that Shang Tsung is like a shapeshifter in the other games, but he doesn't really have that power in this version of Mortal Kombat, because it's a new timeline that Liu Kang rewrote. But then
is it like the Mission Impossible masks?
No, it's just he has like an old man eyebrows that he takes off, and like long hair and everything, and like kind of like the Fu Manchu beard that like he has in the original. And then a woman appears and is like, I can give you the power that you pretend to have, and it's like, join me and I'll lay the realms at your feet. And like that's kind of the kickoff point for the story. And then like, Raiden and Kun Lao are actually like buddy in this, because Liu Kang kind of stepped into the role of being the god of the team. So Raiden actually kind of slots into Liu Kang's role of being like Kun Lao's best friend and being the champion of Earthrealm. And then, there's some campy moments in addition to some really badass cinematography and choreography. But like, there's one where like Sub-Zero's fighting in this bar in like a cutscene, and like he punches and like it leaves like a trail of ice, and he like removes his arm and the ice remains. And a guy at the bar just like breaks off a piece of ice and puts it in his drink. And then like, Kun Lao doesn't have his like razor blade hat, but he has like just a regular hat. So you see this in like one of the trailers, like he throws the hat at, I forget if it's Scorpion or Sub-Zero, and it just kind of bounces off his head, and he turns around and looks at him just like, why'd you do that? And he's like, and then like later on, like a circular blade like flies through and it like gets stuck in the wall, and Kun Lao has like this moment like, oh, that works much better. And so like there are some campy moments and a lot of nods to like Mortal Kombat's history, but like the production values are incredible, even beyond what we saw in Mortal Kombat 11. And this is another one that I'm just like marking off my calendar, like, all right, well, whenever I get to play this game, I'm just going to devote like all my nights to it for like a full week and get through the story and maybe make a dent in like the Invasions gameplay.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Brian, thanks for joining us on this part of the podcast. And listeners, we will be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to the Game Informer Show. Wesley, tell us all about Immortals of Aveum. How is that video game?
It is very good. I don't know if you need to like rush out to play it right now, given everything else around it. But it's one that if you're a fan of first-person shooters, you should not miss it this year.
Really?
I gave it an 8, and I thought it was going to be one of those I'm alone in this. Like, the people on Twitter that do the review roundups, I was like, mine's going to be on the top, and then there's probably going to be a lot of other ones below it. Like, for some inside baseball, the embargo was at midnight when the game releases, which is sometimes never a good sign because
70% of the time, not great.
It means that exactly.
There's something.
And I'm like, okay, maybe I just like vibe with this game, and this team's not confident. I don't know, but it turns out like a lot of other people agreed that the game's pretty good. It's a first-person shooter like Call of Duty, but you're not using guns. You're using magic, and you have 3 types of magic. And your blue magic acts as like your long-range rifle or sniper. You have red magic that acts as a shotgun. You have green magic that acts as a machine gun. And the thing that I enjoyed most about the game is it turns like arena combat into almost like puzzle encounters, because certain enemies have shields that need to be taken out with specific color weapons you have. So you're not just like mindlessly shooting at enemies. You're like, okay, this guy's attacking with blue. Let's throw some blue magic onto him. Got a green guy over here. Got 2 red guys in front of me. And so, and if you don't, I'm not familiar with what that is, but
okay. I feel like that's the game that sort of popularized that concept of switching, because you had multicolored bullets, bullet hell, and it's like, but
is that the one where you could turn your switch vertical to play?
Yeah,
they made that device for you.
I forgot they added.
Which is super cool.
It's a much older game than that, but it kind of established that concept of like multicolored bullets only affecting the corresponding enemies, and that was like the strategy, having to switch at the right time.
Yeah, okay, I do know that game. So it's similar to that, and it's not like super punishing. If you attack an enemy with the wrong color, it'll still damage them and stuff, but like their shields won't go down much at all. And it kind of has that Doom, the new Doom games type of feel, where you need to like really be on your toes and switching back and forth and like paying attention to what enemies attacking you, when and where, because the screen becomes filled with enemies and it can get quite chaotic. And I really enjoyed that. I like first-person shooters, but I do think the genre can be a little stale in terms of how it approaches shooting. Like, you're often just shooting, and you have cool guns, and I like this gun, so I'm going to shoot an enemy with this gun. And I always appreciate a game that's trying to like do something different. And I mean, not to mention, it's also using magic instead of guns. And then it takes those mechanics and applies it to its open area exploration. So you have tons of puzzles in the world to solve. You'll see like a red gem on the wall, and you need to shoot it with your red shotgun magic. And then you got to find the blue gem on the wall and shoot it with your blue magic, and so on. And it does it like you have to do it fast enough to unlock it and all this. There's a lot of puzzles they do with this mechanic that I really appreciated, because this game has a fair bit of exploration. It's not just run and gun, shoot people all the time, and oh, you're in another arena combat. There's quiet moments where you can explore and find collectibles and there's tons of chests to shoot open. It was like very different from first-person shooters I've played as of late, which I appreciated. It took me 16 hours to beat, which is already like 10 hours longer than most shooter games I play, I feel like. The storytelling is fine. It's a lot of like fantasy jargon and proper nouns, and
Sure.
this game kind of like throws a textbook of information at you. Like, it's impressive that
on a scale of A Knight's Tale to like Game of Thrones, how medieval are we talking? Like the dialogue.
Oh, it's like A Knight's Tale. It's
Okay.
modern dialogue and characters. They just happen to live in a very fantastical realm.
I mean, this isn't old Earth, right? This is like
no,
right?
this is
like a whole
other
universe, right? Yeah,
Aveum, baby.
Yeah.
Forget it. It's Aveum.
Basically, there's two warring factions, and they want like control over magic.
Oh, what's the war called? Because I saw an ad for this game the other day, and I was like, "This looks like the cheesiest shit I've ever seen."
War. Oh,
Everwar, right?
The Everwar.
Yeah, it's Everwar.
He's like, "We've got to take out Karthak in this Everwar," and I was like,
I thought that was a rare game.
"I'm never playing this video game."
That's how it is.
But then you're saying it's really good.
Like,
Come on, man. Baldur's Gate 3 is like 10 times worse than that.
but they're not like, "We've got to go to the Moonrise Towers to take out." Well, I guess they are saying that.
I was about to say, I bet you're quoting Baldur's Gate 3 right now.
I think it was just the line delivery. It was like,
Alex, like that, just to hear someone be like, without context, is like, "We're fighting in the Everwar." You're kind of like, "What?"
And it's like, we have to take out Karthak in the Everwar, and I'm like, my body's like, my skin is crawling from the cringe.
That sounds like a great like early 2000s like alt rock band name though. Everwar. They would open for Paramore maybe.
Yeah. I'm sorry. There's a lot of games that have writing like that. It's not this one. It's not like it doesn't mean that I wouldn't enjoy it. It's just I saw that in an ad and I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, I mean the writing is very
like that.
Like you do hear like he's right behind me, isn't he? At least once in this game.
Oh, like
and
a
like
big thing with teeth like snarling. You're like, darn it.
Yeah,
it's the Whedon-esque. Whedonism.
Yes, that's. I was trying to think of the director. Yeah, it's very Whedonistic in its dialogue, and
I don't like that.
But like I kind of like it was there and it was happening, and there's a lot of jargon on screen, but like I was there for the combat.
That's always good when the story of the game it's happening. That's really good.
Yeah, the story exists, and these characters go places and fight people. Yeah.
No, but the gameplay does look interesting to me.
It's a lot of fun, and I will, to the story's credit, like it doesn't really, as cheesy as the dialogue can be sometimes, it's pretty straightforward in its messaging, and it's not trying to like be all like gray line this and that. Like your characters are like, yeah, we got to kill this kingdom of fascists because like they're fascists, and it's kind of nice to just hear characters be like, these guys are basically Nazis, let's just go kill them, and then you just do. There's no like
gray. It's like these guys just suck.
Yeah.
Let's deal with them.
Yeah, it was a refreshing like forwardness in it. Although the characters, it's really just the main character. He's very like what you described, Alex, like to
What's
a T.
his name? Do you remember his name?
Jack with the K, like Jack and Dexter.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Do that?
It's Go ahead, Kyle. You've got
I asked them about that when I went and saw the game a couple months ago, and I was like, that exact question. Marcus was basically, are you guys allowed to do that? And it's named after the director's son, so he gets a special pass.
There's a real life Jack out there.
Real life Jack.
Well,
I imagine
his son's got a lawsuit coming to him.
Yeah.
He just outed his son.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah. His son. He named.
Go ahead. No, I haven't had my coffee.
I was gonna say he named his my least favorite character in the game after his son, unfortunately.
Oh no.
But that happens sometimes. I mean, there's not too much more to say on it. Like, if you want a good first-person shooter, I think you should play this. But like, don't come here for a good fantasy shooter story, because it's not that. That's not what I took away out of the enjoyment of it. But I like thoroughly enjoyed the first person shooting and the exploration and the puzzle solving a lot. It's probably trying to think of other shooters I've played this year. It's probably my favorite shooter this year. And I would love to see this team like make another. I think that they're really onto something with their mechanics. If they can maybe, work up the world a little bit more and make it more interesting to exist in and talk to people in, then I think they could do a really good sequel.
Man, who would have thought the big showdown would be Call of Duty versus Immortals of Aveum?
Yeah, I mean, he's the former Call of Duty folks working on Immortals of Aveum, so but yeah, I've played games like that, Wes, which I admired them. Like, I feel like the original Assassin's Creed was kind of one of those where it's like, there's like, you guys have something here, and this is a great first effort. Like, I want to see what happens next. Like, I kind of feel that way even about like Death Stranding, where I'm like, there's shortcomings in Death Stranding, but it's like you've got something here. Like, there is something huge here that you just need to sort of iterate on and work on. And I'm getting the sense that that's kind of what Immortals of Aveum feels like. It's like solid first entry that it's like with more time and a potential sequel could really maybe be something really special. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's like an impressive game for sure. This is the first game from the studio. It's the first Unreal Engine 5 game not built or funded by Epic, who have created Unreal Engine 5. And I did have some performance issues, but they had a list of day one fixes coming with the patch. Yeah. So that was nice to see they were aware of the issues. I didn't encounter any issues that they hadn't already listed in that list, so I wasn't too worried about that. Just some frame drops here and there, and the shadows didn't look great. But yeah, it's like an impressive looking game. I kind of wish I played it on PC just to see what it looks like a bit more maxed out, because I played on PS5.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm impressed with it as a first outing from a new studio, trying to do something different in the first person shooter genre, which is pretty mostly just military. Like, it's military games, and you have the occasional Doom. And I really enjoyed them mixing magic instead of guns. It seems like such an obvious switch up to do. Like, instead of guns, let's use magic. But I don't know. I didn't find too many examples when I was like looking into other games that have done this. And I think that Immortals does it really well.
I don't think of that. Remember that magic-based battle royale where it was pretty much that? Like, they were like, we're gonna do a battle royale.
Battle royale. What was that game called?
I think it was something like that. You guys, it's not around anymore, but I played it.
Royale?
No.
It was literally
making up games.
Yeah, it was back when everyone was making a battle royale, and someone was like, "Hey, we're just gonna do spell casting, but as a battle royale."
Yeah.
Spellbreak.
Spellbreak.
I was gonna say the developer was in Boston for some. I don't know why that stuck in my.
Yeah, that's the only other game that comes to mind when I think of what Immortals of Aveum is going for. But yeah, like
there's always Hexen, which is like a Doom era shooter.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, that's a different generation. We've left that long behind.
The Chivalry team, I believe, made a let me double check. Chivalry Mage game. Mirage Arcane Warfare, maybe.
Arcane Warfare. I want a Call of Duty that's just called that. And it's just wizards
instead of zombies. It's called Arcane Warfare.
For some reason, they're still talking like a lot of military jargon.
Yeah, Mirage Arcane Warfare. It was developed by Torn Banner, who does Chivalry, and it was like I don't think it lasted very long, but it was a multiplayer magic wielding sort of game.
Yeah.
If I recall.
I guess Tiny Tina's Wonderland, sort of, kind of.
Nah.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah.
Sometimes. Yeah, in some ways.
Yeah.
But it's all proving Wes's point that this has not been done much.
It's novel.
Which is cool. Yeah.
But it seems like it seems like something that there's tons of games doing it, but there's not. I mean, I hope that they make more of these. I hope that people that like first-person shooters give it a try and support it. I know as someone who really enjoys those types of games, I'm always complaining that they're usually so multiplayer focused, and I would like, some single-player first-person shooters that have like a big focus on the campaign instead of like just a side course to it. So yeah, like if you want a good meaty first-person single-player game like Immortals of Aveum is, I think a game you should check out.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well,
Game Pass or no?
It's an EA Originals game, so I haven't looked, but I imagine it's on that EA subscription thing. I forget what that's called, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's on Game Pass or PlayStation Plus for that matter.
Okay.
Well, cool. Well,
And
Wes,
it's a full game too.
okay. Thanks for giving us a lowdown on that. As we wrap up the show, just want to give a reminder to people, if you want to support Game Informer, please grab a subscription. You can head over to GameInformer.com/magazine. If you're wanting print copies of the magazine, you can buy them for $6 a piece over at GameStop.com/GameInformer, or you can go to your local store and you should be able to find them there. And those are just the single issues. So if you're looking for, I don't know, you like the Sea of Stars cover, and maybe you read it when Kyle published it this last week, and you want to issue, you might be able to find one by heading over there. And it's $6.
It's a good cover.
Yeah,
It's
good
really
cover.
pretty.
Great way to support us. And go follow us on Twitch and YouTube, twitch.tv/GameInformer and youtube.com/GameInformer. We've got a lot of video reviews coming up. We just published our Baldur's Gate 3 video review this past week, as well as we've got some more cover story videos coming up for Sonic, and perhaps maybe our next cover will be dropping in the coming weeks.
Can we plug our for Twitch? We have a new Super Replay starting this week.
Oh, I haven't heard of this.
Ooh.
Yeah, we're going to be playing the entire story campaign of Mortal Kombat 9.
Oh, that'll be
AKA
fun.
the 2011
awesome.
reboot.
Yeah,
Sort of getting ready for MK1. So
That'll be fun.
that'll kick off this Friday.
awesome.
That'll be like just one stream, right? Isn't that like a?
Apparently it's like an 8-hour
just a few
campaign.
hours?
Okay.
It's like 8
Oh,
hours.
really? Okay.
Those
cool.
MK
Nice.
games are all like Call of Duty campaign length, roughly. Probably like 2 or 3 episodes.
Okay, cool. Go listen to All Things Nintendo, which is our Nintendo podcast releasing every Friday. That's hosted by Brian Shea. And lastly, follow the crew on social media. You can follow Kyle at Kyle M. Hilliard. Follow Marcus at Marcus Stewart 7. Follow Wes at LeBlanc Wes. You can follow me at It's Van Aken. And don't forget to follow Brian at Brian P. Shea.
Also, real quick, I want to shout out my Kyle Hilliard on Blue Sky, because that's actually the one I've been using predominantly.
Me too. Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So follow me there.
And if any listeners who are maybe in the Game Informer community Discord need a Blue Sky invite, I've got some extras, and I think all my friends.
Yeah, me too. I'd throw some in there if anybody wants.
I've got 2 codes I'm sitting on.
Yeah, maybe I'll make a little thread in there in general chat today, because all my friends who want to be on there are on there, so happy to give those away to the community. All right, well, I'm gonna go grab some coffee, guys, and start my day. Thanks for talking to me. Thank you all for listening. We will see you next Thursday. Bye.